In this video, you'll learn how to distill down your brand story and how to communicate that messaging with a unique and ownable story that only you can tell. But why listen to me? After 15 years of design and brand consulting, working on billion-dollar brands, million-dollar brands, and tiny little brands that no one's ever heard of, and co-founding a creative sprint agency called SprintDebt.com, the mission is to give away all the secrets and all the tools that we learned the long way around so that you can have agency rather than use an agency while building your brand. So this video is rooted in copywriting and positioning. So you might want to pause it and go through it. This might take some time, but stick with it. You're going to get a lot of value from this. We're going to go deep, okay? Okay, let's get into it. Right, so first off, we are going to start with this tweet. Or was it a LinkedIn post? I think it was a LinkedIn post. First one, in order of uniqueness. So when you're communicating a story, there are, let's say, some fundamental basic ways that you can communicate. First one is very simply price. Now, bear with me. If you're looking at like a $1 pizza, if we're competing on price, we are a commodity. But there are, let's say, the dollar pizza is quite a thing. The happy hour £4 a pint thing, the bottomless brunch where you pay 20 quid and it's, all you can drink, whatever, the all you can eat buffets. There are certain institutionalized ideas that do give you an opportunity to tell a story that might be ownable within your local town or local village or local whatever. It gets a bit gimmicky, but you can come up with a unique gimmick that you might be able to play with. So we're going to put price here. It's good to frame this because we're going to build it up and you'll see why, as we go through it, why it's important to start simply. Okay, so now we've done price, we're going to move to problem. That's essentially solving a problem like I'm hungry or I'm thirsty or working late, get Deliveroo, an early gym. Like for instance, if you're a gym, you can open really early and then that can be part of your leverage, but there's nothing to stop the gym next door or down the road doing the same thing. Say, for instance, you're a chicken shop and you stay open really late until the clubs chuck out. So at 4 a.m. you can, everyone's there hungry and a bit drunk. Then that's a cool problem you solve. But then what's to stop the other fast food place down the road doing it? If you're in any city or any town, like at 2, 3 in the morning, let's say, there's always like one place that everyone goes to. Sometimes even irrelevant whether or not the other ones are open too. So price, you're still a bit of commodity, which we know. So, but everything eventually costs something. And you can be a bit gimmicky with it and have some fun with it. The problem, hungry and thirsty. Are you working late? Do you want to get it delivered to you? Blah, 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 blah. How would we do, what can we do for a graphic for problem? Let's say exclamation point, dingy, dingy, sad face. Cool, so we've done that. So next one, we want to talk about promise. The thing about a promise is, it's a little bit more ownable because you are able to essentially add in some value or value stack or add in a guarantee or reduce risk, or there's lots of ways you can kind of play around with it. So obviously, the best pizza in New York City, whatever, best is quite hard to own. Unlimited is something you can offer. Award-winning, obviously, again, lots of people can put this in, but if you can, that's why when you go in all those pizza places, they've always got the celebrities going in. There used to be a fish and chip shop where I grew up, and every celebrity that came in, it was almost like, the handshake. It's kind of, there's a way of sort of having kind of a fun guarantee that, or if it's ludicrous, pizza in 4 minutes, delivered in 25 minutes, or it's free kind of thing. These kind of mad guarantees are often usually around fast food and so on and so forth. It's spicy wings, you can finish them, or you can eat. If you finish them, you can blah, 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 blah. So you can have these nice guarantees and promises that are quite action-based guarantees, 10 minutes or less. What can you do, for instance, that allows you to make a promise that, yes, it is true, and yes, you hopefully have some proof or some like little award boards over here. But again, so what's to stop someone coming in and copying it? Not a lot. Let's do a pinky promise. Absolutely mental. Now, so hopefully you've thought about what you can do for those three. Now, place. Now, this is one of those ones where it is a little bit ownable. Yes, you might still have some competition, but you are essentially only really fighting with the people that are there. So for instance, Brooklyn Lager or Scottish salmon, let's say Champagne, for instance, that has made an entire career, entire identity of just that bottle that can only be called champagne, even though currently now English sparkling wine is on the heels. We have the same soil. So I'm sure you could launch a fun product around that. The French would hate it. So Philly cheesesteak, all those kind of ideas, they can exist. So like if this is where you are, maybe there is a lot of competition. But for instance, if I live in San Francisco, I can't really do like a Philly cheesesteak unless there obviously is a story, but that comes later. Again, when everyone does that, it then becomes a commodity, which is tricky. Unless you've got it in the name, like Brooklyn Lager is a brand, so there's a slight little bit of ownership there, which maybe puts it quite ownable. And Philly cheesesteak is a thing that anyone can make. Maybe there's an original one, blah, 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 blah. So price, obviously commodity, problem, very specific to what you sell. And then promise, a little bit ownable, but what's to stop the competitor doing it? And then fourth, maybe location-based, that can be nice. But problem with that, again, you still do have some competition. So if what you're seeing that I'm doing is I'm explaining to you how you are here, how lots of people kind of stop around here. So they'll tell stories and then they'll just be like, yeah, we're the cheapest, or, oh yeah, this is what we serve. These are all cool and not wrong. But as you can see, so it wants to stop other people or the competition doing it. So the more we go down the list, the more ownable they get. After place, we're going to go to product. So for instance, if it's a piece of meat that's been smoked in a smokehouse for 25 days or 27 to be specific, always the weirder numbers. If you make a hot sauce or something and, there's a real secret recipe, there's a hidden stuff, like I think KFC has like a unique spice blend. That's the bit where you take all the generic ingredients and then you push them together, and that's where you create an edge. So what can you do that's unique? What's your process? What's the unique way you bring the raw elements together, or the way in which you tie it, or the story that you tell? That is a lot more ownable to you. But then if we're bound by the process. Now, position. This is where, from a positioning point of view, where positioning is very ownable, because how you position yourself in the market, how you present yourself, how we do this, not that, or it's us, not them, or we're against them. There is ownability in that, but often you want to try and, if you're positioning yourself against somebody, it's always good to be the underdog. That's probably where you have the most leverage. Oh, let's say you make shoes, and there's a shoe brand over here which has got really, a lot of heritage. They've been around, in London for hundreds of years. They have a real set process and they do it. But like, you understand fundamentally how they make their shoe, and you want to come in and make a similar one. But the thing is you make it cheaper, or you have leverage, or you do some kind of, you haven't quite got the kind of price tag attached to the brand. Although you might have the exact same, like for like thing, you're not able to charge as much or whatever. But that's a heritage play. But if you positioned it as we do X, Y, Z, rather than doing that, almost like that's the old fuddy-duddy thing. It's kind of like what Jaguar's doing essentially, but they're doing it to themselves. But you come in and be like, we don't do this, we like that, or it's about this way, this is the cool way. And you can be quite playful with it. They'll have quite strict ways of how they turn up in the market, where you can be quite mad and crazy. Maybe there's certain bits, maybe on the subject of shoes, maybe the sole is bright red, like a couple of brands do that. Or maybe there's some interesting thing when you do the laces or whatever. But like some way in which you can kind of position yourself in the market where you are doing the same thing, but you've made it slightly more like a bigger story or a beef. Like, this is how we do it, not we don't want to be like them. We don't like bureaucracy. We like this. That kind of story. So how can you position yourself in the market to be kind of brand new and shiny? I didn't think about the icons before I started this video. So what's coming out is pretty funny. So now, paradigm. Now, this one's a hard one to explain, so give me a second. But for instance, I use the phrase ism-ist just because how I perceive it is that, there is no ism without an ist. Like if you think about Cubism or Surrealism, Picasso was the guy that was painting like this and painting in this way. He was the ist. And then you got enough ists that it then became an ism. So then it became a movement, a shift in culture, like a paradigm shift. Like if you can attach yourself to something like that, then and almost become part of that collective or that idea, then there is real leverage in that storytelling because, not everyone can do it. It's sort of like the us, not them, are you in the club kind of idea, but it's very timely. It's hard to predict. So you kind of, you have to be ready to go with it sort of thing, almost like the AI boom or the NFT boom last year, or when TikTok was, the early adopters. You're in that early adopter 1,000 super fan territory. There's a societal shift. Usually there's something, the Overton window. So what people are able to talk about in society or able to talk about online, say, comedians being able to talk about more and more racy stuff, or female comedians, there being an audience for them to talk about things that maybe 30 years ago society wasn't ready for, and this is all good movements in culture, and those shifts, you can attach yourself to those positive changes and positive movements. Sometimes not everything's positive, and that therein lies the problem. That's why if you got to be careful from a brand strategy point of view what you attach yourself to. But yeah, that what's happening in culture and how you impact on that, not everyone can follow you into that. And if you're positioned right, it can be a real powerful way because you immediately tap into, so you have all these little ists that then become an ism, that then all the people on the outside of the club suddenly were like, oh yeah, I want to be involved in that. And then they look for the thing that's been most established in the thing. So whatever has been happening, whatever landmarks or guys that moved first, the early guys, the first people, these guys will just glom onto that and then go with it. So you will get a lot of leverage in terms of people piling into it and then finding who's the most biggest or most on-trend person in that thing. And then once you're in there, then, in that position in the market, you can then even find beef. You can be the underdog or have the heritage in the new thing. You want to play the heritage brand. So yeah, that's interesting. Hold on. So just going back with that. So for instance, if you're in the space, if you get in there first and then loads of new people come and it becomes quite saturated, then you're almost the heritage play for the OG. And then people will want to come to that. And then eventually you'll scale, but then as you scale, let's do it like this actually. As you scale like this, you leave something for the competition to cover with the underdogs. But if you're on a trend like this, because you were first, it gives you almost, you might be able to be reactive and pivot and adapt. So you actually might be able to blow that underdog out of the water. If you're not talking hundreds of years, and we're talking how fast tech moves, so maybe like 5 years, you got a head start in terms of like all the stuff you're building and all mass adoption and finding product market fit and stuff like that. So yeah, sometimes an underdog isn't actually the great thing to be, or it is, and then you want to become the big guy depending on what story you're telling and how you're positioning it. Wow. I mean, obviously, I love this kind of stuff. You can really go for it, but hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, just to recap on that. So let's say Overton window is becoming, that's when that's moving in society. That's quite a powerful thing. So imagine, just to go back, so you're in society, right? You've found an opening and you've convinced a load of people to come with you on that journey. You've positioned yourself against the legacy, whatever, or the bureaucracy of something else. You've got a unique process and a unique way of doing something that's different, or you've taken all of your expertise and funneled it into this one thing. You're doing it in a specific place that where the action is happening, so where the culture is changing. And then the promise you make is that it's brand new, or it's completely next level, or you've removed all the crap. So you've this sans that. you've reduced it all down, and then the problem you're solving is also compounded with the idea of the paradigm shift. So it feels you've got an urgency play because it's very cool and very fast paced. And then obviously the price, maybe it can be, if we're going on the gimmicks, let's say the future maybe it'll be a subscription model, which is positioned differently against whether or not other things in life, maybe it's you find whatever's happening, and instead of it being $1 pizza, maybe you have to pay $50 membership and you can have as much pizza as you want, for instance. And if it was a software business, you could have a thing like a subscription model, which would be jarring or counterintuitive to the industry, which would make you stand out position wise. Make sense? Okay. Final one, or second to last one, sorry. So people. Now, obviously off the back of that paradigm shift, so you've got this culture idea, but when you start to bring people in, you then get to tell unique stories. Now, naturally, it's very hard for someone to come in and tell a story that is related to a group of people or to success stories that you have. If you've got big success stories or big wins or career-defining moments that involve certain people, or you've worked with certain people, you've done special collaborations, say if you're in fashion, you choose people, that can be a real opportunity, especially if you're like, from a community sense, maybe you're building a bit of a collective or you're building a thing off the back of the paradigm, that shift. Maybe you've found a niche within that and those people become a little subculture. Because I think subcultures, they briefly disappeared and then they came back, in a very digital format there. I don't know how much they are IRL, but like digital subcultures are huge and they are in response to a lot of the paradigm shifts that are happening on the internet. So yeah, especially if you also jumping back into this, if you also group it around a positive affirmation or a aspirational idea of transformation or virtue or something that's healthy in the community, Seth Godin, people like us do things like this idea, then that's a very hard story to fake, or a hard story to cheat, or a hard story to borrow or steal. Like that, you're starting to enter into that unique positioning and unique storytelling. So very much about us. And then the last one, if you're still here, is just about the person. So the family, the founder. I think the founder's journey is one of the most unique stories you can tell, especially if you're out in front of it. You've probably seen the rise of CEOs getting out in front of businesses. The market doesn't really want faceless corporations anymore. They want people with personal brands that they can find. There's a very low trust everywhere, so people want to do what humans do best and look at people and judge them and read them and understand them for who they are. And that means it requires a lot of ideas, similar to like this. If you're still here and you've never worked with me or seen anything that I do, you would want to spend a little bit of time with me before you get me in to help you out. And now, like, building off person and the made by that experience journey, and talking about sort of how why that's such an ownable idea and why people are so important, especially if you look at what's happening in media right now. Like, this is what a funnel used to look like. Obviously, everyone knows this: top of funnel, bottom of funnel, brand salience, which is top of mind, bottom of the funnel. That's where you buy it, and then there'll be like a nurturing sequence here. Then you're in the pipeline, and you're away. And eventually, once you'd kind of problem aware, solution aware, product aware, and then you'd buy if you'd seen enough stuff. Well, that's the general thing. That I don't think, and lots of other people, I'm not the first to think this, but I don't think that really is how things happen anymore. As specifically how I think about, you don't need a lot of data. You just need to look at how I hang out, how I buy things, how I focus on stuff. And I think it's more like this shape. I've used this shape for a few things, but this is the shape that I think I would articulate the buying process. And you could extend this as many as you want. But I think people come into your ecosystem, maybe they see something over here, or maybe it's whatever, however they get in, and then they see a flagship piece of content, and then they almost slingshot around that like a little orbit, and then that propels them into this thing, and maybe they read that a little bit, and then they hang out over here, and then maybe they go over here, and there's a little bit of content for them here, and then this slingshots them over there, And then when they get around here, then there's another one. And then by the time they're out here, maybe they've gone through all of this stuff that now they're like, yeah, I'm ready to buy with that person. And that's kind of how I think. Like, I think that shape really makes it work. And the only thing to really influence that is people. Like, jumping back to the idea, like, yes, made by, or the family recipe, but it is also maybe the culture that you've built or who you are. As a founder, you've got out in front of it, you're doing podcasts, you're doing this, that, and the other. There's your origin story and your journey, you know, that no one can, where you came from or the story you've told, your hero's journey. What's he going to draw now? The hero's journey and the archetypes that you've discovered and conquered, and the dragons you slayed, and all of those things. That is a completely unique story that only you can tell. So imagine beginning there and how easy it would be to, once you've kind of worked it out, to craft back from, I went on a journey and I did this, and this is where I discovered all of these ideas, that classic founder journey. And I slayed the dragon and I came back with this information. The people I found along the way are the people that I've convinced to come on with this journey. These are my founding members, and these are the people that believe in the movement and we're part of it. There's also other people that are in the surrounding things that are doing things like us that we care. The paradigm shift is that we believe that in this, not that, and we think it's about, we should be talking about here, this thing, not that thing. And then, it's about, we don't believe in heritage, we believe that we are the underdog and we want to do this, and we've seen this opportunity, so come with us. We have a unique product that addresses all these things in a certain way, which is different to the current market that you can't get anywhere else. There is a development in that. We're also primed, whether digitally or physically, to be the best to do that, because we are in that environment, we're in that ecosystem. Come and join it. It's made by us, made for people that fit in this ecosystem. And the promise we're making is that it's, we will be better than this, faster than this, and cheaper than that. And it'll be a phenomenal experience because we know X, Y, Z. We've run the numbers, we've done the things, we've been through the system, that we now found all the gaps. Second one, because we know you have this problem, and then, oh yeah, by the way, it costs this. If you think of that, that is essentially your why, your how, and your what, but done in a way that I think is a lot less wibbly wobbly than maybe just sitting down at the, look at this bit of beef here. A lot easier than just going in with the golden circles. The Simon Sinek, no offense, Simon Sinek, I think you're great. But I just think at the heart of a why, there is always a who, and that who is you.